Today we're going to be talking about The Sims 4 story progression and if the latest update hints that it might be coming very soon. If you're looking for my thoughts on eco lifestyle or paralives, I have videos on those topics, and I also have an all videos playlist that will show you everything I have made. So if you're looking for stuff to watch, I definitely have you covered. Let me know if there's anything you'd like to see me make a video on. I do have quite a list of video topics that I want to make videos on. However, I am always open to new ideas, so if there's something you want to see, just ask. What exactly is story progression? So for the people who have never played another Sims game besides The Sims 4, story progression made your town come alive. Sims would fall in love, they would get married, they would have kids, they would fall out of love, they would cheat, they would move houses, they would change jobs, progress in their jobs, lose their jobs. Story progression made your game very organic, and every time you played, even if you were playing with the same townies in the same world, different things would happen. It made your town feel alive and bustling and not just having Sims age up and die. I don't know about you, but I'm not really interested in micromanaging my towns. I'm just not into going in and playing with every single family, getting them all jobs, getting them all married, getting them all to have kids. No thank you. That is way more work than I want to invest in townies. So having some code that automatically does this stuff and makes your town continue to thrive is a big appeal for some players. The Sims 3 had story progression, so asking for story progression isn't just something that they've never had in the game before and the gurus have no idea how to make it. This is a big key missing feature for The Sims 4 because nothing really happens in your town. You're playing in a bubble. Everyone just ages up and dies, and they did nothing with their life. They might as well have not even existed because they really didn't do anything, add anything to your world. They were just there as cute little cardboard cutouts. My original idea for this video was to talk about whether I thought Sims 4 story progression was going to happen or not. And long story short, yes and no. My original thoughts were we were going to get some kind of story progression, but not anything spectacular or huge like in The Sims 3. If I would have made my original video, my insight would be that the Sims team is going to make something very, very simple for story progression purposes. And that's for a myriad of reasons. Right now they are focused on money and not necessarily focused on huge free updates, because let's talk, this has to be a huge free update. You can't just put story progression behind a paywall. That's not gonna fly. We usually get one huge game-changing update a year. I believe the last one was last June with Island Living. I believe they put in a huge patch that added things like ceiling fans. I vaguely remember people talking about that. I don't keep up with packs and updates, so I might be a little bit hazy on the particulars. The Sims team gets a budget, so anything they make has to come out of that budget. Obviously, most of the budget goes towards making packs for the game. If they're going to make story progression, they're going to have to deal with a very minuscule budget to make it on, basically a shoestring budget. So asking for the moon and the sun and the stars is just not going to happen. Odds are they're going to make something very, very simple, maybe something the player can control a little bit, and allow their towns to grow with story progression per se. A story progression light, if you will. So those were my original thoughts about story progression in The Sims 4, but then they put out eco lifestyle and changed some things. I haven't personally updated my game yet because there are just way too many bugs out in the wild for me to comfortably update my game, but I did notice some people talking about some interesting features on the Sims forum and on Twitter. At first it was cool, that's interesting that they're bringing back some of the weird telephone calls that we used to get. A nice little nostalgic throwback to other games and other times. But then we get a call from a Sim in town asking your Sim if they should get pregnant. Interesting. Like I said earlier, I'm not a big fan of micromanaging, but I could be okay with seeing a pop-up from time to time and changing some things that happen in my town. So do I think this is actually story progression or its final form in the game? I'm not really sure. It's a very interesting idea, but I'm not really sure I would like to be pestered all the time with townies' lives. Story progression has been traditionally a set it and forget it. Let the game figure it out and I don't have any control over it. And I really think we should stick to that. However, this pop-up for for pregnancy seems to be between friends. So it's someone that you already know, have a relationship with. If we were going to do story progression like the pop-ups with friends or people that we know, that would probably be okay. If you already had a relationship with a sim, you may want to have a more hands-on approach to story progression, and everybody you don't know can be taken care of by the game. I don't know if this would necessarily make everyone happy, because some people want to micromanage everything, some people don't like pop-ups, some people do. There's a lot of things to consider when adding features as big as story progression. I've seen a lot of debates lately, especially people on the forums talking about how they don't want story progression or they do want story progression, and I think we need to take everyone's insight into consideration. Not saying that you can please everyone, but this needs to be user-friendly for the majority of players. I definitely think there has to be some way to turn it off for the players who don't want to play with story progression, or say you want to play rotationally in a town and you don't want story progression messing up your game. We also need an option where it can run autonomously in the background and you can be completely hands off. This is something I think I want and a lot of other players want as well. We don't want to micromanage, we don't want to play around with things, we don't need a whole bunch of options and stuff to do. Just let the game do its job and make sure everybody has a life. The pop-ups, however, would be a very interesting middle ground, allowing you to control the sims that you want to control, and the ones that you don't, you can just let the game have at it. Do I think these pop-ups are story progression per se? Not really. I believe they were added to fix a problem. Before this update, we were constantly inundated with calls from friends asking us to go here or there, and then we get the "would you like some earbuds?" constantly. So I think they decided to add more variety to the calls, so they went back to old Sims games and pulled some favorites back into the game, but they also added some other things to spice up phone calls and make them less repetitious and annoying. Yes, it could very well be that they are teasing at story progression through a little bit of a cheeky hint in the game, but what I think they actually did was add a little more variety to the phone calls so that we're not being driven insane by them anymore. It also remains to be seen if this has any effect on the game at all. It could just be a cute little call that you get between friends. I haven't really seen anyone talk about if the Sims actually get pregnant or not. The general nature of these calls is that they are random, they come at any time, and you can get any one of a number of them. So we'll just have to see if this actually has some impact on the game, or if the game is just being a little bit silly and quirky. Personally, I don't really care either way. If my Sim has a really good friend, sometimes I go in and mess with their family, get them a husband, get them kids. It just depends on how I'm feeling when I'm playing the game. We definitely need player choice with story progression. We definitely don't need it shoved down our throats if we don't want it. Do I believe that the Sims team can make everyone happy all the time? No, of course they can't. There's always going to be people who don't want or don't like something that you're offering them. However, that doesn't mean they shouldn't try. And for all of the times that I can say bad things about the Sims team, they do try. They do give people options, especially in like the options menu where you can turn things off if you don't like it. I have to give them props for doing that, because we didn't even have that really in The Sims 3. And when we did, it didn't work. Each option has its own pros and cons. If you have an autonomous thing, there are going to be people who are mad because they play a different way and the game is messing up their families. If you make it completely hands-on, people are going to be mad because they don't want to deal with that. If they wanted a hands-on story progression, they would do it themselves. I definitely think the Sims team needs to take a look at MC Command Center, because I think that is the perfect option to make everyone happy. You can set it up completely how you want it. Only have it go after the Sims that you want to have it go after. There is so much freedom with that mod. However, I don't believe EA has the time, nor the money, nor the skill to do something like that. It just seems completely out of their reach to have something so tailor-made for every type of player. We also have to think about how this is going to affect affect the game overall? How many times is it going to be broken and need fixing? The Sims 3 had some kind of regular story progression made by EA. Unfortunately, some pack came out in its life cycle that broke that caused that not to work anymore. If you go back to play the base game of The Sims 3, EA story progression works fine. You put in all the packs, it doesn't work. The Sims team definitely needs to think about making this sustainable and not having to fix it every single patch like the mod version does. And that's not even getting into the artificial intelligence in the game and how many Sims it actually can support. That's a subject for a whole nother video. Let me know what you guys think about story progression down in the comments. Let me know how you feel about these story-like pop-ups, and I will see you guys in the next video.